Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to cross the Øresund once again and we're going to go back to Copenhagen in Denmark and revisit one of my favourite craft beer destinations. Copenhagen, as I've told you before, is one of the best craft beer cities in the world, at least in my opinion, and you know, there really is some great stuff over there, and this probably is my favourite place in that city, so I would recommend you check these guys out. For this review then, we are going to go to the meatpacking district, just out to the west of the central station in the city, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Warpigs Brewpub, and this is the third time you'll see these guys here on the channel. So this particular beer is called the Mosaic Mo Problems. It comes in at 6.8% ABV, and this one is an IPA. I'm not actually sure whether this will be a New England, a West Coast, or something in between. I really don't know. But it's the first IPA that I'm reviewing for you here on the channel, as I said. The other two beers that I've reviewed for you from these guys, the first one was the Lockdown Lager, and then the second one was the Salmon Pants. And I think the Salmon Pants was actually produced over in the States and then imported, come to think of it. But yeah, I always enjoy going to visit Warpigs and eating some of the pork and having some of the beer. They've always got a good rotating tap list over there, so you can always find something really interesting to go and drink along with your barbecue stuff. It's always a great place to go. So if you find yourself in Copenhagen, I would highly recommend that you make Warpigs your top beer destination. They've really got some very, very good stuff there. So yeah, nice to have these guys for you here again on the channel. This is the first Warpigs beer to be released here in Sweden through Systembolaget. This one came out as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment on the 1st of November 2020. So in addition to all the Swedish breweries, you do get a couple of things from Norway and Denmark as well, which is always very good. Both Norway and Denmark have some very good beers these days. So yeah, definitely cool to have these guys for you here on the channel again, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. Very curious to see what this one has in store for us. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Warpigs Brewpub before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you, and that's being added to very, very regularly because I am so close to Denmark here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. So we always bring back some Danish goodies when we go over there, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Warpigs Brewpub then, on to my brewery notes. So Warpigs Brewpub, as I've told you before, was founded back in 2015, and you'll find it in the old meatpacking district in central Copenhagen, just a little bit to the west of the main central station. You can get along there in maybe about 10 minutes from the central station, if that, to walk it. It's very, very close. But this company is actually a subsidiary of both Mikkeller, the famous Danish gypsy brewery, and Floyds Brewing, who are from Munster in Indiana, just a little bit to the southeast of Chicago over in America. And this is a brew pub, an American barbecue restaurant, and it's really just pretty damn good actually. The kitchen is currently headed by Adrian Claudio Lazar, and he just, you know, works his magic in there. You know, the food that you get in Warpigs is absolutely awesome. You know, the brisket, the pork shoulder, all of these kind of things, it's just absolutely awesome. So I do recommend that you go and check it out. But for the first 2 years, the brewing team at Warpigs was led by Kyle Wolak, who was originally a dishwasher at Floyds, and he worked his way up into the brewing team. He left in 2017 to go and work for Hill Farmstead in Vermont over in America, and he was replaced by the Singaporean Lan Shin Fu, who stayed until 2019, when she was in turn replaced by Chris Heist, who is still in place today, and he comes from Germany. So they're brewing a lot of nice kind of German beers at the moment. So you can always get some really interesting like Dunkel lagers and Doppelbocks and stuff like that over there. But to date, these guys have produced over 400 different beers. There's always something different on the tap list in there, but they do put a small number of the beers in cans, and some of them have also been produced over in the US as well. I'm not sure whether that's at Mikkeller's facilities in New York or in San Diego, or whether it's 3 Floyds that produce them in Münster close to Chicago. Maybe all 3 of the brewing facilities over there do little bits and bobs. But yeah, this is a place that I really recommend that you visit. They've got some great food there, and you can actually watch them do the brewing as well. The brewing is at the kind of back of the brew pub, and they've got lots of seating space in there as well, so it really is worth going and checking out if you find yourself in Copenhagen. One of my favourite places to go, of course. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Warpigs. So just to tell you a little bit about Mikkeller and 3 Floyds, the 2 companies behind the Warpigs Brewpub. Mikkeller, of course, were founded back in 2006 by Mikael Bjergso and Christian Keller, although the latter left the company very early on. They operated for many years as a gypsy brewery. They brewed their beers mainly in Belgium at the De Proef Brouwerij, just outside of Locristehefte, or in Locristehefte, just outside of Ghent in Belgium. But in 2016, they took over Ale Farms Brewery in San Diego, and the following year in 2017 they opened up another brewery at Citi Field, home of the New York Mets in New York. And they also have their Balhaun Blendery in Copenhagen as well, which is where they produce a lot of their sour beers and things. And I would recommend that you go and check out that place as well, at Reffelsløen, if I'm pronouncing the place correctly. But their beers are actually brewed in the Warpigs Brewpub and then put in a tank and then driven out to Reffelsløen, and then they go into all the aging process and things like that. But yeah, Mikkeller these days, they've got various bars across the world. I think they've got ones in like Singapore. I don't know if there's one in Hong Kong these days actually, but yeah, there's ones in Singapore. I think there might even be one in Shanghai, Seoul, Tokyo, and various ones dotted across Europe. There's a couple of destinations in Thailand as well these days. But yeah, you've also got the Mikkeller and Friends bars, which are collaborations with Toul, and you've also got RampantLionReviews as well, which I would recommend you check out. Very, very authentic Japanese ramen in there as well. So yeah, if you get the chance to try RampantLionReviews or Warpigs, then you are in for an absolute treat. But a very well respected Danish brewery these days, and yeah, they really have done a lot of beers over the years. 3 Floyds on the other hand, as I mentioned to you earlier, these guys are from Münster in Indiana. They were founded back in 1996 by Mike Floyd along with his 2 sons Nick and Simon. They've been scaling up over the years. They built a massive reputation for themselves. They became very well respected early on. And these days they're producing around 10,000 US barrels of beer per year. And they are working on a slightly bigger facility at the moment, from what I understand, and doing a little bit of distilling as well, actually. So yeah, I have been to the 3 Floyds Brewpub in Münster. My friend, one of my friends, Jesse, he took me there, and we went and visited it, and that was quite nice. They wouldn't let me film an out and about thing in the bar, unfortunately, which was a little bit annoying, but yeah, what can you do? That's just what happens sometimes. But yeah, no, a very, very well respected brewery these days, and hopefully I can get back there at some point and actually film. I won't ask them next time, I'll just do it and see what they say. But yeah, definitely worth checking those guys out if you get the chance. They've got some really interesting beers, and yeah, like I say, a very, very well respected American brewery. But yeah, those are the 2 companies behind the Warpigs brand. So that's all the background, I guess, you need to on the brewery there. If you want to learn more about anything that we've talked about here, you can check out the brewery websites. You'll find the Warpigs Brewpub, the Mikkeller website, and also the 3 Floyds one down there. All the usual social medias there as well, and you can check all of that out. But yeah, do as I say, check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the beers that these 3 entities have produced. And you can, of course, you know, just go and knock yourself out and try some of the beer. You know, there's some really good stuff from all 3 of these breweries. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'm very, very curious to see what this one has in store for us. So this can, as you can see, is a little bit taller. This is a 500ml half-litre can. We do like the Danish cans because they are always a little bit bigger. But yeah, really nicely presented. The name of this beer is a little bit longer compared to some of the other Warpigs ones, because normally the Warpigs logo is kind of centred on the can, but here it is around the side. And this is I think this is a special batch they produced actually to put into Systembolaget over here. But yeah, this one has actually been brewed. At the Warpigs Brewpub in Copenhagen. So yeah, they must have like a mobile canning machine or something in there now. They must be producing on a slightly bigger scale. Either that, or they've rented out one of the other rooms or something like that over there where they can age the beer. So yeah, that could be another thing that they're doing there. I wouldn't be surprised if they are. But yeah, really nicely presented beer. This one, I always enjoy the Warpigs artwork. Half-litre can, 6.8% IPA this one. Let's get it out and see how we get on. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. I think I paid 55 Swedish kroners for this. I'm not sure what that would translate to in the Danish kroner right enough, but yeah, it would be about €5.50 for a half-litre can. And I think it would be, what would it be in pounds? It would be roughly, that would be, it would be about £4.50, £4.60 or something like that, and then in American dollars, yeah, it would be maybe about $6 for the can. So yeah, the dollar's dropped a little bit recently, but yeah. Anyway, that's your kind of pricing there. But as you can see, and as you would expect from an IPA, this one's poured this one's a bright yellow rather than being a little bit more ambery. But you can see very nicely presented. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see there is a degree of haze to this one, but it's certainly not the haziest of IPAs you're going to come across these days. Yeah, definitely a nice. It looks a little bit more like a West Coaster, this, I have to say, rather than a New England. But you can see this one's poured with a solid half finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there. A few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty nice actually. But yeah, lovely looking stuff. A very bright yellow beer. Let's just have a little look at what it says on the can here, because you usually do have the things there. So it says wheat, it says barley and wheat malt in this one, no oats. So yeah, that could either. Some of the West Coast IPAs do have a bit of wheat in them, but some of them, you know, and so yeah, this one could be either or, come to think of it. Some of the New England IPAs don't use oats, but that's a little bit more unusual. But yeah, we'll see about it. So we can't really say exactly what style of IPA it is, but it certainly looks lovely, and it's, yeah, I'm just very curious about this one now. So yeah, nothing surprising about the appearance of this one. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and see how we get on. Ooh, that does smell very nice. You know, it smells like a very straight shooting IPA, this one, I have to say. And you know, with the Warpigs Brewpub beers, they do have some absolutely crazy stouts and stuff like this. But they've got a lot of sessionable beers as well. I mean, when I was there last time, they had a few, you know, Munich Helles, they had some Merzens, they had some Dunkels and stuff like this. You know, they do have quite a few kind of sessionable beers, and maybe this one, you know, at 6.8% with the alcohol content, you can't technically say it's a session IPA right enough. But, you know, this one, I think this is one of the beers, going by the smell, it's maybe one of these ones that's produced to be just nice and solidly done and drinkable. That's the impression I get from the aroma here. But yeah, it does smell very, very nice. It does smell a little bit more West Coasty, in fairness. So straight away with this beer, you get that nice kind of white bready base to it. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit of you know, American crystal, and maybe even a bit of two-row malt in this, because it does actually smell a little bit more West Coasty and American, to be honest with you. So you get that nice kind of white bready base. There's a little bit of a kind of sweet bread crusty note to it. A little bit of a caramel right in the centre of the nose, and you do get a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing actually, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, the aroma that comes out of this beer, I think, is pretty nice on the malty side of things. The more that you sugar it up, the more you start to get some of the malty sweetness out of the beer, but to me it's very straight up. White bread, little bit of bread crust, some sweet caramel, little bit of a biscuity note in there. That's your malt base kind of summed up quite nicely. I do suspect maybe a little bit of crystal, American crystal malt in here, and maybe, you know, there could be a little bit of Cara Munich or something like that, because the bready backbone that this beer has, it does come across as very nice, but there's something about the crispness in the malt there that makes me think it could be American malt rather than German malt or whatever. But then again, the head brewer is German. It's always interesting to speculate about these things a little bit, but I'm sure we'll get some more ideas when we have a taste of the beer. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, this one, if you know Mosaic as a hop, this one is kind of what you'd expect. There's a little bit of a kind of earthiness to the beer at the back. You've got some nice floral aromaticity in there, nice bit of lighter grassiness. Overall, I would say that the green side of the beer for me really leans towards that kind of more grassy aspect, which is very nice actually. I like how all of that goes together with this one. So yeah, nice kind of more grassy beer, but you do get a little bit of the floral character. It does have a wee bit of zestiness kind of sitting in there in the background as well. But yeah, the aroma of this is actually very nice. Like I say, a very straight shooting beer in my mind. So yeah, on the fruity side of things then, it is kind of what you'd expect. You've got that lovely kind of oily tangerine note to the beer. There is maybe a little bit of like a slightly pineapple-y note or something in there. There is just a little hint of a tropical note, and maybe a tiny little hint of that slightly darker, almost passion fruity quality in there, but that's very, very minimal. The main component of the aroma here is that big, juicy and very slightly oily tangerine note. I'm a sucker for these orangey leaning IPAs, as I've told you numerous times. Amarillo was my favourite hop back in the day. Mosaic came along and that has grown to become a firm favourite. You've got Zaka, Sabro, they've got some really interesting orangey components. Mandarina Bavaria is another one that I really like. YET Pacifica from New Zealand. I forget what the other one down there is that has it's maybe, it's not, is it Ruaka has a good bit of orangey character to it, I can't quite remember, but yeah, I love these orangey leaning IPAs, so I think this is going to be one that I quite enjoy. But yeah, lovely juicy bright tangerine note coming out of this beer. So yeah, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma out of it before you get stuck in, but I think this will be quite a nice straight shooting, just well done IPA, this one. That's what my prognosis is going to be for this beer. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Mosaic Mo Problems, an IPA coming in at 6.8% ABV from Warpigs Brewpub in the Meatpacking District in Copenhagen, a collaboration between Mikkeller, the famous Danish gypsy brewery, and three Floyds from Münster in Indiana, close to Chicago in the States. Slanja, skull, cheers. Curious about this, I have to say. Oh yeah, that's just a very straight up, very nicely done, drinkable IPA. Yeah, this one, it's not doing anything surprising. It's just really, it's one of these very, very solid ones. I just had that feeling about this beer. This is very nice. Gets a thumbs up from me. I really like this. Yeah, this one's got a lovely, it's got a lovely balance between having a very clean mouthfeel and being very crisp at the same time. It's got that kind of brewpub sort of smoothness to it as well. Actually, that must be the German side coming out. I've always found that German beer, while it does have a degree of crispness, at the same time it's always got a lovely smooth malty backbone. I think that's one of the things why German beer kind of resonates with me a little bit. The Scottish sweet tooth, the malty, or malt heritage, if you like. I think that's why I've always kind of found. You know, I always enjoyed the German beers. Actually, this one really is very, very nice. It does have a bit of that German smooth backbone to it, which I really like. But at the same time, you do get that kind of, if you think about some of the West Coast IPAs, like the Pliny the Elder and stuff, it's got that lovely kind of bready backbone with just a little bit of brown sugar on top. You know, the crystal and the two-row malts and things. It really does have a bit of that vibe about it, actually, as well. So yeah, this is almost like a hybrid between a European brewed West Coast IPA and an American West Coast IPA. It's something like that. But it's a lovely beer, this. And as I say, thumbs up to Warpigs Brewpub for this. This is another solid beer. But yeah, very, very nicely done. Yeah, have a go at this one if you get the chance. You are going to enjoy this. But yeah, let's try and break the flavour down a little bit and just see how we get on. This is just easy drinking, this beer. Lovely stuff. Yeah. So, straight away with this beer, you're going to get that lovely white bready base just blanket in the middle of your palate. It's got a lovely smooth white bready note to it. If you go further back on the tongue, you will get a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty quality to this one, which is very, very nice. And this beer does sweeten up the further that you go into the aftertaste. So yeah, nice smooth white bready base there. A little bit more of a kind of bread crusty note towards the back, and you do get a few more grainy elements coming out of this beer the further that you go into it. But if you go into the very centre of your palate, in the middle third of your tongue, there's a lovely kind of sweet caramelly quality to it as well. But then as you move further out from the middle of your palate, you start to get more and more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. But even the brown sugars in this beer have a really nice kind of smoothness to them. I would love to know if that was a bit of crystal or a little bit of Tura. I think it's more likely to be crystal. The flavour that comes out of this beer does remind me a little bit more of crystal malt rather than anything else. But it's lovely. This is a lovely, just very, very easy drinking beer. I remember my good friend Peter from the Clueless Drinker. He's a member of the Mikkeller Beer Club, actually, and he gets quite a few of these Warpigs beers. He always used to say that Terry the Tank was a really, really, really nice IPA. So I'd be curious to know his opinion about whether this one is maybe a rival to that. I'll need to see if he's reviewed this once I'm finished with it. So yeah, I'd be interested in this, because this is lovely. I really like this. But yeah, it's very straight up in its malt base, like I say, and it just, it does the job. This is a really nice, just drinkable IPA. This is like a kind of food pairing-y type IPA. Is it the most mental IPA you're going to get from either Three Floyds or from Mikkeller? No, it's just a nice, solid, drinkable IPA, straight up malt base. White bready notes, a little bit of bread crust, then the kind of sweeter notes in the middle third of your palate. On the back third of your palate, as I say, the bread, the kind of breadiness will thicken up a little bit, and as you come further forward, it just drops as you reach the kind of middle third of your palate. Sorry about the edit there, guys. Camera just decided there was a buffering problem or something with the memory card. I don't know, getting annoyed with it doing this thing repeatedly now. But anyway, as I was saying, this beer, you do get a little bit of graininess building out of this beer in the malt base the further that you go into the aftertaste, and that just adds a nice little bit of dryness in the aftertaste, which I think is nice. It makes you want more. But yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of this beer then. So yeah, in the back corners of your palate, you do get a little bit of earthiness out of this. This is one of the trademarks of the Mosaic hop, for sure. Yeah, so definitely a nice little bit, just a little touch of earthiness there, but as you come further forward along the side of the palate, it does get a little touch herbal, and then as you reach the front corners of the tongue, there's a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity comes out of the beer. Then you can go round the very front curve of the palate and you get that lighter sort of grassy thing coming out of it as well. It's got a lovely green side to it, this one. Again, it just makes it nice and drinkable, but you will feel a little bit of that floral aromaticity just building and building the further you go into the aftertaste as well. So yeah, you get a little bit of graininess to the beer in the aftertaste, but then you also get some nice floral aromaticity as well. That's really really interesting with this one. But yeah, I think the grassiness, there is a little touch of zestiness to the grassy quality in this beer as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there is another bittering hop in this one. It could be, pardon me, I wouldn't think it's Columbus, because it's not quite spicy enough to be Columbus. Could they have used a little bit of Mandarin and Bavaria or something in here as the bittering hop? I wouldn't be surprised about that. There is something that's just a little bit German about the kind of grassiness and the floral aromaticity about this one. I seem to have a bit of an obsession about this beer. It kind of does remind me of some of the German brewed IPAs that I've had, and it just has that lovely German smoothness to it and a little bit of the German noble hop character. Maybe it's the power of suggestion, because I know that Chris the brewer is German. It's maybe something like that in my head, but yeah, it's as I say, it's a lovely beer, this, and I like these notes. The German brewed IPAs are always very, very nice, and it just reminds me of some of these, I have to say. That's probably why it's so drinkable, because of course with the traditional German beers, it's all about the kind of drinkability and the quality of the beer, and that's just how this beer comes across to me. But yeah, the green side of this beer, really nice, little bit of zestiness to the grass, as I say, and a good kind of floral component in there, and that's exactly what we want. I do wonder if there's a bit of Mandarin and Bavaria in this. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, as I always say, that front third of your tongue, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. If you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a little bit of a kind of citrusy note, a kind of strong, dark citrusy note there just sitting on that back third of your tongue. As you move further forward, you can feel the flavour just gets a little bit lighter and lighter, and then you can feel the oranges, the kind of tangerine oranges starting to come out, and then on the front half of that front third of your tongue you get that more oily fruity character, and that's those big juicy tangerine notes that you would always pick out of Mosaic. And I've, in the past I've had some, in some cases with Mosaic I've had a little tiny touch of blueberry almost on the very tip, the very edge of the tongue there. I don't get that so much in this one, and it might just be my palate kind of evolving with the more beers that I drink, because your palate is constantly changing when you're trying lots and lots of different beers. But yeah, the flavour that comes out of this one, to me, it's got a lovely juicy kind of tangerine orange. It's a very, as I say, it's a very, very straight up beer, this one, and the flavours just kind of click together very, very well. It's got a lovely smooth malt base to it, as I say, a little touch of sweet kind of caramel biscuity note there. The floral aromatic component to the beer is really nice, and it's got that slightly oily, juicy tangerine note to it. This is one of these beers where everything just kind of merges together, and it makes for a very nice drinkable IPA. This isn't the most mental beer you're going to get from either of these breweries, the craziest, most kind of out there one, but it just works. And you know, sometimes to have beers like this, it is just very nice. Simplicity can sometimes be the key. Keep it simple, do it well, and you know, you will be in for a good beer. And I think that's exactly what this one is. So maybe it should be called Mosaic Less Problems. You know, it's yeah, that might have been a better name for this beer, to be honest, because it's just it's very much a straight shooting IPA. This one, I really like it. So thumbs up to Warpigs here, and big shout out to Chris. I think he's produced a nice one this time. But yeah, awesome stuff. This, if you do like Mosaic, this beer highlights it really nicely. The malt backbone is good, and I do suspect there might be a little bit of Mandarina Bavaria in here just to kind of promote certain aspects of the Mosaic. This is just a very good IPA, this one. So try it for yourself and see what you think. It's one of these very well balanced, very easy to drink beers, and sometimes simplicity is key, like I say. Mouthfeel wise then, let's round off the review with that. So for me, this beer, again, it's in the middle of the spectrum. It's a mid-bodied beer. The carbonation is very smooth. It does have a little bit of an oiliness to the mouthfeel, but it's got a nice bit of smoothness in there as well. Very well balanced in that sense. Again, in terms of the hoppy bitterness, it is one of the lower IBU beers that I would come across. I would say that this is about 40 IBUs, maybe even 50 at maximum. It does have a wee bit of bitterness that builds the further that you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, this is quite a low IBU beer, sorry. Yeah, a little bit more IBUs in it than some of the kind of standard New Englands, this one. And I would say that stylistically, this beer, it comes somewhere in between New England and the West Coast. It is a little bit more like one of these kind of modern takes on the West Coast IPA with the slightly lower bitterness to it. I think that's probably a fair interpretation. So yeah, low bitterness West Coast IPA, this one. One of the more modern interpretations of the style, but I think it pulls it off very nicely. I'm always a little bit sceptical about these modern takes on the West Coast IPA. For me, a West Coast IPA should have at least 70-80 IBUs, but this one I think works out quite nicely. I would say that this one probably is 40 or 50 IBUs. I think that's fair for it. But like I say, the malt base has a lovely smooth kind of bready base. It's got a little bit of that sweet brown sugar on top of it. It has a bit of German bready smoothness there, but then it does have the nice kind of more sweet biscuity note that you'd expect from the West Coast IPA. So it does have that, and then you've got some lovely juicy fruits in there. It's leaning towards the oily side on the fruity things, and again, that's a characteristic of the West Coast IPA. So yeah, I think stylistically we can fit this one into the category of a modern take on the West Coast IPA. Low IBU West Coast IPA, this one for me. But yeah, I think we can round off the review there. It's a lovely beer, this one. It highlights the Mosaic hop very nicely, and this is a good sessioner, this one. Even at 6.8%, it is a little bit dangerous. You could easily tan a few of these within a couple of hours. That would be a very easy session for you. I don't session beer outside. I don't really drink beer outside of the videos these days, of course, but yeah, this is another very solid beer from Warpigs, and I'm not surprised. They've been putting out some very nice stuff recently. So yeah, let's leave the review at that then. This, I think, is a very straight shooting, very nicely done beer, so thumbs up to Warpigs Brewpub once again. I'll need to see what we can review next time from these guys. I think it would be cool to review one of their big Imperial Stouts or something like that. I'll just need to see what I can find from them. But yeah, lovely beer, this one, and I do recommend that you check it out if you get the chance. This was the Mosaic, no problems, 6.8% IPA, this one, from Warpigs Brewpub in the Meatpacking District in central Copenhagen. Awesome stuff, and do go and check out the brewpub if you get the chance. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Warpigs, Mikkeller and 3 Floyds. All of them do some really awesome stuff. This was just a really straight shooting, very nice, easy drinking IPA, in my opinion, one of the more modern takes, a slightly lower bitterness West Coast IPA, and it worked out very nicely. If you like orangey leaning IPAs with a little bit of a sweet backbone, this one is most definitely for you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, cheers.